In that case, I suppose you're here to collect. I apologize, but I simply do not have enough caps on me to cover the debt. If someone were to recover my caravan from that cave, I could easily pay in full, but who would bother with such a mess?
This is episode 65 of a series where we examine the cut content, design, and development of Fallout New Vegas. During the quest Debt Collector, the player recovers caps for the Garrets. One of these NPCs, Lady Jane, sends the player to retrieve her debt from Brockflower Cave where her caravan was ransacked. Her dead Brahmin here is internally named Water Brahmin, suggesting it should have used the Water Brahmin model. Strangely, it uses the cut Lincoln Head Brahmin model from Fallout 3 instead. This is easily one of the funnier oversights in FNV, and it's now canon to me that Lady Jane stole the head from the Lincoln Memorial before bringing it to the Mojave Desert. I've mentioned that there was a cut building behind the Ultralux that was only shown in early previews. This building still appears in the Wasteland world space, but is missing from the Strips world space. Intriguingly, a section of the official guide tantalizingly mentions a cut location. It specifically mentions an art gallery, but there's no location like that in the casino in the final game. Perhaps the art gallery was once contained in this cut building, but this will likely always remain a mystery. Before we get into even more cut content, this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Raid is a turn-based fantasy RPG that brings a true console-level experience to your phone. With hundreds of artifacts to equip and over 600 champions with unique skills, you can build your team and raid your way. My favorite champion is Syl of the Drakes, a legendary champion who heals herself and your team at the start of each new turn, essentially making you invincible. An amazing addition to the game is the Doom Tower. This game mode introduced a whole new world of new and terrifying bosses to slay. As a high-level collection RPG, Raid started with hundreds of unique characters and bosses, but that didn't stop them from adding more and more new champions. They recently added a legendary version of the champion Death Knight, and everyone can gain access to him for free by logging in and playing Raid for 7 days between now and October 27th. And if adding new characters wasn't enough, last year Raid added a whole new faction. The Shadowkin are a tribe of warriors from the Far East, recently liberated from the reign of evil. But that doesn't mean they're the good guys either. And of course, the Hydra Clan boss. It's without a doubt the biggest, baddest, and scariest boss to ever set foot in Teleria. This month, Raid also released a cool new feature called Awakening, and a difficult new dungeon named the Iron Twins Fortress. If you complete the dungeon, you'll be able to awaken your champions, an ability that transforms the way they perform in battle, adding in a whole new level of depth and variety into the game. Now is the best time to start playing Raid, and if you click my link in the description or scan my QR code, you'll receive a free starter pack worth $30. We're talking a free epic champion, Aina, 200k silver, 1 energy refill, 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard so you can summon awesome champions as soon as you get in game. You can also use the DK Rises promo code for a bunch of free items to instantly level your strongest champion all the way to level 50. Honestly, I can keep going on and on about Raid Shadow Legends. It's really the perfect game for all player types. Just click the link in the description and I'll see you in game. Originally, when the player walked through the tunnel at the end of Vault 11, several clips of the endgame slideshow song were played in various sections of the area. In one of the patches, they disabled the sex sounds that play in locations like the Gomorrah, and it seems in the process of cutting those sounds, they accidentally broke these sound files as well. It's genuinely too bad this was cut, as the intended music vastly improved this scene.
The light is calming and puts your mind at ease. Go to the light.
After completing a game of Caravan, the player is removed from the conversation regardless of winning or losing. However, most Caravan playing NPCs have lines that were meant to play after a game, one line for winning and another for losing, as well as lines for the player rejecting or accepting a rematch. This was likely cut deliberately since most players wouldn't want to play a single game of Caravan, let alone multiple games in a row.
That was too easy. How about we play again and this time you actually try? Damn it, I should have won that match. Let's play again. I'll be here if you ever want a rematch. I hope you're ready for this.
No bark wins. A few more like that and the curse will get lifted for sure. Dang it. Should have known you was getting caravan hints from the bloatfly spirits would live in these parts. Dang it, no bark, just when you was making a friend. No more magic spells this time.
Don't take it to heart. I've studied the strategies of the masters. Wonder where I went wrong. Let's try that again. Shucks. Well, let's do it again sometime.
Nice try. Care to try your luck again? Not too bad. How about we play again? Okay, if you want to play again sometime, let me know. Let's get this started.
Looks like you need a bit more practice. Another lesson, perhaps? Impressive. That was a very good game. Would you care to play again? Another time then, perhaps. Excellent. Let the game begin.
There's also some generic lines for this that were recorded by 6 other voice actors.
Here I was thinking you'd be a challenge. Want a rematch?
Nice try. Let's play another game.
Damn it. I thought I had you there. Let's play again.
Wow, you're good. Give me another game. You know where to find me if you want to play again.
What, afraid to lose? Well, come find me if you want to play again.
Okay. Hope you're ready to lose.
Let the caravan lesson begin.
There is a mod by Astera that restores these lines, and there's a link to that below. There's some unused game settings called No Repair Hostile Actors Near and No Repair in Combat. When triggered, the following messages would have appeared in-game. You cannot repair items when enemies are nearby, and you cannot repair items while in combat. These suggest the player wouldn't be able to repair their weapons while in combat, and even when enemies were nearby. This was most likely cut to decrease difficulty, as it would have been pretty oppressive in some situations, but it would have been a nice addition to hardcore mode. During development, Obsidian's developers learned from the modding community by checking out existing Fallout 3 mods, and most famously, New Vegas' hardcore mode was inspired by one of these mods. Somehow they actually left a model reference to one of these mods in New Vegas' ESM, a mod called Mart's Mutant Mod. Presumably they used this as a reference for making a feral ghoul variant, but strangely didn't remove it entirely. During the quest GI Blues, Pacer gets into trouble with some NCR soldiers who are helping the squatters in Freeside. The code for the quest that handles the player killing these NCR soldiers has a funny note that mentions, "Player just killed a bunch of peace lovers. Reward karma appropriately." There's unused code that would cause the spore carriers in Vault 22 to resurrect after they were killed. This would have been an awesome idea to have them come back to life after killing them, and could have made the vault even creepier. There's also a test script for some kind of rad dust effect in Vault 22, but it was never completed either, and it's completely unknown what effect this would have had. In the BSA, there's an interesting file called Fallout Dictionary, and this text file is where the words for the hacking minigame are chosen. While it was slightly altered in future games, the text file is essentially the same in both Fallout 4 and 76. Interestingly, many of the words contained in this file are seemingly from a fantasy or cyberpunk setting, words like Barghast, Knighthood, and Monoblade. Parts of the text file even tell a nonsensical story. For example, story synopsis. The player character stumbles onto a plot to build hyperlight transmitter that will be used to command Forgotten Orbital Weapons Platform. Mysterious waste lord with messianic complex known as Puppet Master, for his ability to control minds of dangerous monsters, has sent armies scour waste, pieces technology in order build able, harness awesome destructive power, and become absolute ruler. Is tossed into middle conflict when raiders kidnap and enslave kindly villagers who have saved life at start of game. Struggles find free, enslaved he uncovers, must act, stop, discover way, thwart plans by unlocking secret android citizens, Mayville AI controls them hidden deep beneath core, offers help before can complete, forges an unlikely alliance between City Mutants group and scientist survivors. Obsidian made a handful of sounds for neon signs, and even some unique sounds for the neon signs at the tops and the Lucky 38. Some of these sounds aren't used, but you're unlikely to hear the ones that are, because they set them to almost -50 decibels. They get drowned out by ambient music and radio songs unless you stand right next to them. I can't help but wonder if these settings were a mistake, because why bother recording and setting up sounds the player can barely hear? The same thing also happened to the sound of harvesting plants, as well as the sounds shrubs make when you walk through them. There was once a line where you could ask Rex to change to a ranged weapon in dialogue. He'd make this noise, and the line would tell you that he defaults to a melee weapon since he doesn't have ranged weapons. There's an unused player line where you could tell the NCR hit squad leader, "So what? Screw you and screw the NCR." There was a stun baton at the location Matthew's Animal Husbandry, but it was deleted by a patch. There were also 2 graves placed near this area, but one of them was strangely changed into a burial mound by a patch. Burial mounds and graves use the same model, but they don't have the same properties. Burial mounds can be accessed without a shovel, while graves require a shovel to search, but they also provide better loot than burial mounds. We've already looked at many differences between the Pip-Boy map and the Wasteland world space, but another inconsistency can be found at the location West Pump Station. The world map clearly shows a road running in front of the building, but at some point after the map was completed, it seems the road was altered into rubble. It's unclear if this change was made for aesthetic purposes or to improve the area's performance. After completing the quest Boulder City Showdown and speaking to Victor, you can ask him if he's seen Benny, and afterwards he plays this line.
Fancy Pants? No, I ain't seen hide nor hair of him since the tussle in Good Springs. I'm sure he ran back to the soft living of New Vegas, though.
However, he has an alternate, arguably better voice line for this that was never used.
Benny? Fancy Pants' name is Benny? No, but I reckon that bunny hopped his way back to New Vegas.
The musical track Spring Song was intended to play in the Ultralux lobby, but it was set up incorrectly and Piano Concerto No. 21 plays instead. This is the only area where the song is played, and as a result, it's entirely unused. When ending a conversation while talking to Julie Farkas, she doesn't say anything at all. This might have been added to give her a strange personality quirk, but I suspect this is an oversight, and they forgot to record a goodbye line for this particular voice actress. Howdah pistols were 19th century large caliber pistols that were used for self-defense against big game animals. In a Formspring post, Josh Sawyer revealed he considered this weapon for FNV, stating, "I had considered a Howdah pistol as a single-shot 50 caliber handgun. I chose not to use it, not because it was anachronistic, but because it was terrible in any circumstances other than a close-range sneak attack. Heavily specialized weapons like this could have been a cool inclusion, but I can definitely understand why it was cut." In Honest Hearts, there's an alternate unused Pip-Boy image for the Dead Horse's armor. The sash is placed differently, and there's an armband made from the fangs of a mutated creature. It's possible this is a variant for female characters, or it might be an entirely unique armor set. This would actually make sense as both the White Legs and Sorrows have 2 unique outfits, while the Dead Horses only have 1 in the final game. There's a texture and model of the 12.7mm pistol called Booyah. It shares the same model and texture as the version that appears in-game. This might be an internal name for the weapon, an early version of what would eventually become the unique 12.7mm pistol Lil Devil, or it's possible this was an entirely different unique weapon. Notably, the silenced 12.7mm pistol uses the same sound file as the Varmint rifle. There is a unique sound for the silenced variant of the weapon, but it was left unused. While promoting the Mercenary DLC pack on Twitter, Josh Sawyer mentioned a weapon called the Mercenary's laser rifle. It's crossed out though and was replaced by the grenade rifle that appears in the final game. Like the Mercenary's grenade rifle, it likely would have had identical stats to the normal version, but would have weighed less, had a unique color palette, and no skill requirement. This would have been a great inclusion for energy weapon builds, but luckily for us it can be restored via a mod by Umbersona, and there's a link to that below. Fallout 3 introduced Nuka Cola Quantum, and Obsidian considered using it, as the item was added into the base game and even altered for hardcore mode. Despite not appearing in the core game, it's still referenced in a banner found at the Goodsprings General Store. The same banner is also used in Sierra Petrovita's house, which is bizarrely present in New Vegas despite not being used either. It seems that Quantum was later replaced by Nuka Cola Victory, which also acts as an action point boosting consumable. Strangely, Nuka Cola Quantum would later be added in Lonesome Road, as there's a container behind a gas station that has a very small chance of spawning a single bottle of it. It took me about 10 minutes of reloading the cell for it to actually spawn, but it can happen if you're lucky. I suspect this was an oversight too, but we'll likely never know for sure. Another sound oddity is the file for drinking Nuka Colas. The sound was clearly recorded by a male voice actor, but it's used regardless of your gender.
We'll just see about that. You come any closer and I'm liable to stick you with my sticking knife. Old Sticky's feeling mighty ornery this day.
No Bark introduces himself to the courier by threatening to stab them with a knife he calls Old Sticky, even though his inventory is empty apart from the clothes on his back. While something like this would normally be disregarded as random dialogue, options in the courier's dialogue implies that he really does have a knife, as you can say, "You said you'd stab me with that dirty old knife." In any other game, I'd say these were just funny lines, but considering how much was cut from New Vegas, it's possible he was actually meant to have a unique weapon called Old Sticky.
Bring me a dozen Radscorpion eggs. I'll see to it that you're rewarded fairly.
During the quest Bleed Me Dry, the player needs to recover Radscorpion eggs for the Thorn. You're sent to recover them from a location north of Goodsprings, and this is the only instance of Radscorpion eggs in the entire game. However, there's a cut item called Radscorpion eggs. These are similar to the eggs of other creatures, but have a unique color scheme. The item was meant to be found on dead Radscorpions, and would have had a weight of 2 pounds and a value of 5 caps. If you spawn 12 of them using console commands, you can still actually complete this quest stage of Bleed Me Dry by giving them to Red Lucy. It's unclear why these were cut, as they would have been a nice touch, but thankfully these can be restored too, and there's a link to a mod that does just that below. There's a cut tree in FNV's game files called the Fan Palm. It's surprisingly beautiful and detailed for New Vegas. Even a little more variation of vegetation would have gone a long way, and these fan palms would have looked great on the strip. The fan palm has a texture and LOD, but no mesh. The LOD suggests a mesh existed at one point, but it's unknown why this would have been deleted. There's evidence that other trees like the Joshua tree were reworked late in development, as it looks much different in pre-release screenshots than it does in the final game. While they changed the model, they never actually updated the Joshua tree's LOD, and as a result, they literally changed shape as you walk towards them. Perhaps they meant to rework the fan palm as well, but never had time. There's an unused metal box container called Pony Express Pickup. This seems to be the early name for what would eventually become the Mojave Express drop boxes. There's several cut variants of ant eggs that were altered to be red. For whatever reason, the original white object was used inside the location ant mound, and this red version was never placed anywhere. Near the houses in Primm, there's a mailbox placed way underground. It still has a chance to spawn various items, despite the fact it can never be reached normally. I made a little mod that restores it, and there's a link to that below. Around Deputy Beagle's house, there's also a handful of asphalt pieces that are placed just a little too low to be actually visible. I suspect the terrain was raised here at some point, leaving these objects hidden forever. In the original release, utility poles had physics that created the illusion of their wires reacting to the wind. This was altered in the game's final patch, and they were made into static objects instead, likely for performance reasons. They would later be re-added in the Lonesome Road DLC, but it's too bad these were cut from the core game, as it was a genuinely cool detail. Barrel cacti are a plant that provides a consumable item that can be used to recover health or as a crafting item. While nearly all of them can be picked, there is one strange exception. At Mojave Outpost, there's a static version of the plant that can't be interacted with, and this is the only instance of a barrel cactus like this in the entire game. I assume this was unintentional and was added in by mistake. The official guide and several localizations call the location Cassidy Caravan's wreckage a completely different name. Reed Import Sack Caravan. This name is never used anywhere else though, and must have been changed very early in development. The Lady Killer perk was originally going to be called Lady's Man. There's only a single reference to this title though, so it was likely altered early on as well. There's an unused ending slide depicting NCR soldiers at the NCR Correctional Facility. If the player supports the NCR at the Second Battle of Hoover Dam, this more brutal ending slide is used instead. One of the ending slides shows that the residents of Primm looked like raiders and carried knives instead of guns as they do in the final game. This image shows an earlier version of Arcade's coat that has a patch showing his name. It's unknown if only Arcade would have had this patch, or if other members of the Followers of the Apocalypse would have had it too. In one of the Black Mountain ending slides, Tabitha is shown wearing a blue scarf, an accessory that's notably missing in the final game. The documentary showed an unused walking animation that had more exaggerated arm movement. I'm not sure why this was altered since I prefer this version. Some concept art shows an early logo for New Vegas. It's unknown if this was a placeholder or if it was cut in favor of the final version. This early image shows Sunny Smiles in an earlier form. Her skin and hair are darker, and she has a wider face than her final incarnation. This image shows some mannequins and a flagpole that were cut from the general store area in Goodsprings. The Powderganger snipers at NCRCF have an unused leveled list that would have equipped them with the cut Vault 101 security helmet from Vault 3. One of their ending slides even still shows them wearing this helmet. You can easily tell this is the Vault 3 version since the glass is transparent, unlike the one found in New Vegas, which is opaque. It's unknown if changing the helmet's transparency was a deliberate artistic choice or if this was a mistake. The collector's edition card for Michelangelo depicts him wearing a zipped-open vault suit with a black shirt underneath. This suggests he was going to wear a vault utility jumpsuit, but in the final game this armor is only found at Vault 3. It would have been a nice touch that would have fit his character, and it's too bad it was never added. These changes would have made New Vegas into an even better game. Ultimately though, all of this was left on the cutting room floor.